There's a movie coming to the cinema.
Oh yeah, it's a bit creakiest chair in the world. Let me get positioned, and then I'll try not to creak.
Hip hop in Irish Gaelic language, straight in the face. That's what I thought first when I saw Kneecap, and I'm really glad talking with the director and writer of the screenplay, Rich Peppiatt.
Yes, I like that, as I might use that quote, straight in the face.
Totally. Thanks for your time and meeting me here in Berlin right before the German premiere of your movie.
Hey, it's cool to be here. Such an amazing cinema, the Babylon, and I got a bit of a tour around it earlier. And you know, to be, it's always nice thing as a filmmaker where you come to some of these historic cinemas, you know, 1920s, and you know, all of the sort of films, silent movies, and things like that played here, and you know, kind of, you know, see yourself in the context of the medium itself, and all these great filmmakers that have come before you, of which, you know, I don't deserve to lace their boots, but you know, it's very touching to do it.
You just talk about the past of this cinema. Do you think Kneecap will be the loudest, most in-your-face movie and language this place will see?
Look, I mean, I think in an era where there's a lot of films which feel like they're made for you to be able to scroll on your phone on social media whilst watching and half pay attention, Kneecap is a film that makes you have to sit forward in your seat, pay attention, bop your head, it's noisy, it's loud, and also I think it's a film that really rewards collective viewing. You know, I think it's rather than sitting at home, you know, on Netflix or whatever, it's great as a film to sit in a dark room with a bunch of strangers and have a drink in your hand, maybe have a little smoke beforehand, and just, you know, just throw yourself into it. You know, that's how I think the film is best enjoyed.
And it's a movie where you have to pay attention because you will read a lot of subtitles when you're not familiar with the Irish language.
Do I look like I want to read subtitles?
Let's talk about the people behind it. It's a partly fictional portrait of the founding history of the hip-hop trio Kneecap. And obviously, when you do such a movie, you maybe have to be knew them before, but how is it for you? When did your lines first crossed with a Kneecap?
Well, I mean, I'd moved to Belfast maybe 2 weeks before I met Kneecap, and I just went to one of their gigs and was just blown away by them, their stage presence, the provocativeness of them, and the fact that there was, you know, 500 young people in the crowd who were rapping every word back to them in Irish, a language that I didn't really realise had a young, vibrant community in an urban centre like Belfast. And I think as a filmmaker, when you feel like you've found a precinct that no one else has shone a camera on, you've got the start of something. And so, you know, we started hanging out a while after that, and started, you know, I started fomenting this idea of making a film with them playing themselves. And part of that was because for a while I'd carried around this thought that the music biopic as a genre was obviously very popular, but it felt very tired. You know, it was almost paint by numbers. You know, it was just replace the artist, but, you know, the same story. And at the end of someone's career when they're dead or nearly dead, looking back with rose-tinted spectacles on, you know, this narrative, the rise, the drug-fueled fall, and then the rise again, you know, as they have this kind of career swan song. And I said, well, if you could do a music biopic differently, how would you do it? And I was like, well, would it even be possible that rather than a big act who sort of had a whole career looking backwards, could you take a little act that no one's heard of and follow their career as it grows, almost in real time? Like, is that even possible? What would that even feel like? And Kneecap just felt like the perfect petri dish for that experiment. And, you know, there was obviously a lot of risk involved with that because, like a lot of local small acts, which Kneecap were in 2019, they could have broken up. They could have not got any better. They could have, you know, there's lots of, you know, like many, many local bands, they never get to become big bands, right? And, you know, but I just felt in my bones that Kneecap were destined for greatness. They just felt different to me. And I think it helped that musically, I just love them. Like, it was just some band, some music just really hits you in the sweet spot. And Kneecap, for me, and all their loudness and brashness, were just my music. So, it has been one of the great pleasures of my life to have been able to be adjacent to this band, going from local to national in Ireland, to UK and Ireland, to Europe, to America, and to become this now, what's global act. And through the film, have contributed to them sort of that global success. And that's just, I've got no musical talent whatsoever, but this is as close as I'll ever be to being in a band. So, yeah.
And now you are probably the fourth member of Kneecap.
I'm the fifth Beatle.
The fifth Beatle. So let's take the question. What's Abbey Road? Did they know now what Abbey Road is?
They now know what Abbey Road is, yeah.
But see, looking at the point that they, for self, say, they let you in the dark. What is real? What is fiction? I saw an interview where they joked about it. They didn't tell you maybe all what happened back then when they formed. But what do you think? How thin or how close are we to the real founding story of Kneecap, and how well do you know the real people behind it?
Well, look, I think that I know pretty much everything there is to know about Kneecap. I would call myself the world authority on Kneecap, other than Kneecap themselves. No, look, there's, for me, the first year after I met them, I never really wrote anything other than notes. It was about getting to know them, spending time with them. There's the stories people will tell you in an interview. There's the stories people will tell you after 5 pints. And there's the stories people will tell you after 15 pints. And I needed the 15-pint stories to make this film. So there was a lot of late nights. There was a lot of, misbehavior, if you want to call it that. But it was all part of building trust and becoming close. And I have 2 children, 5 and 6, and they've grown up with Kneecap in the house. They kind of look at them as kind of uncles. They've babysat for them, and behind all the anarchy are 3 very genuinely amazing lads who I'm very lucky to call dear friends. And I think that part of the what's allowed them to put the performances they do in the film is that there was a trust between us that exists, where we are close, and when you are, as a director, having to give difficult notes and have difficult conversations, coming from a place of trust and love, it is a very strong starting point.
And for me, it feels more personal because these 3 play themselves, but it doesn't work out with the surrounding cast, obviously. And when I first saw, oh my God, Michael Fassbender is in it? How did they get him on board? How did you pitch him this movie, or the crew pitched him the movie so he would say, let's go? Well,
Michael Fassbender was on holiday, and we found out where he was staying, and we kidnapped him and put him in the boot of a car, and we threatened him if he wasn't in our film, we would shoot him in the knees. And what answer could he give?
Obviously, yes.
No, look, it really was. I think people sometimes think that getting sort of top tier actors, amazing talents like Michael Fassbender is impossible if you're coming from a small budget indie film. But I think people have to have more confidence than that in their own material as filmmakers, because what actors really want is material that resonates with them, right? And that they connect with. And, there's not a lot of scripts that do that. I mean, you speak to actors and they say, I get sent lots of scripts, but a lot of them, I don't really care for. And so I think, Michael played Bobby Sands in Steve McQueen's Hunger, and he is someone who's seen as a hero in Belfast for that portrayal. And so for us, when we needed an Irish language speaking actor, you go for the top person you can get, and that was Michael. And we're very lucky that he really connected with the role, and had time in his diary to do it, and was just an amazing influence to have on set and role model for the lads. And when you're, as a director, making his first film, when you're standing at the monitor and seeing Michael Fassbender, there, it is a bit of a pinch me moment, and you really understand when the camera rolls why he is a star. Why stars are stars, because they have an amazing control of what they're doing, a professionalism, a generosity with their performance, with their time, and he can drink like a bloody fish. I tell you, a terrible influence when it came to getting the boys to stay on the straight and narrow.
You said something now that is very important. It's your first full film fictional movie. You did some documentaries and other stuff before. How different was it for you? You know the work, the things you have to do for filmmaking. But how different was it while doing other stuff? For now, doing this full feature film.
Well, I mean, my heart had always been in doing narrative work, more as a writer than a director. That was, from university. That had always been my aim. But, ultimately, unless you're a person who has money, perhaps, it's difficult to commit yourself full time to something when you're still learning the craft. And so, I've had a few careers in my life, from journalism, stand-up comedy, advertising, and along the way I've made, documentaries, short films, always trying to work my way to a place where, I could make that first feature. And with Kneecap, I really felt I was in my mid-30s, and for whatever reason, I'd sort of set in my head that 40, I have to get my first narrative feature done by the time I'm 40, or I feel like it might not happen. Right, and I think that people could tell this time out with the Kneecap story that I was not going to take no for an answer. That I was going to make this film with an iPhone and €50 if need be.
And now looking back at the road behind you, working on the project, bringing it to the cinemas worldwide, being recognized for prizes. You've been on the shortlist for the Academy Awards. You've been now BAFTA nominated yourself, but also the movie is BAFTA nominated. You've been acknowledged for what you and the crew have done. Have you ever dreamt of a success like that?
No, I mean, it is overwhelming in many ways. I mean, I'm someone who tries to live life at a 7 out of 10, which means that I don't get too excited and I don't get too down. I find that to be in this industry of film, which is full of dizzying highs and horrifying lows. To be better for my mental health, that I don't sort of take it all too seriously. So I am absolutely, deep down, very, very gratified and happy and proud of all of that. But for me, the most important thing, and I genuinely mean this, is that I can walk around West Belfast where the film is set and have people come up to me and thank me for the film and say this is the truest representation we've ever seen of our community. And that was from the get-go, was like, if we can make the people of West Belfast, where this film is set, feel that they've been seen, that they've been recognised, then that is success. And we've done that, and that really does transcend any shiny trophy. Although I'll take the shiny trophies as well.
Normally that would be a perfect end, but I have one question left. What I think is fascinating, that we see this wild, crazy, in parts absurd story about this hip-hop trio, but then also we see a view on political and social problems in Northern Ireland, which are connected to the history of these countries. But we also see critique directly in the face of the music industry. I think it's fascinating how you got it on point and connected all these little dots, and it's not like over the top, it's not too much, and you see it and you get it and you understand it right in the moment. I think that's more a compliment than a question.
I was going to say, I'm not sure it was a question, but
for you...
yes.
How difficult is it to put all these stuff in and get it on a point so it's definitely will be understood?
Well, I think there's always an element of alchemy to it. You have to... there's no rule book. There's no, there is no ability to necessarily be sure that what you're doing is right. And part of the challenge of being a director and a writer-director is that you are the authority on your material, and you have to have a gut feeling in your stomach of the balance of things. And sometimes you get pushback, and particularly when you're early in your career, you have a lot of voices who are giving opinions and views on what they think the film should be, and does this work, does that work, I don't like this, I like that, more of this, less of that. And I think you can easily get lost amid all of that. For me, I was very firm in the sense that I am the only person who really has a view of the whole pitch. Do you know what I mean? I have the bird's eye view of everything and how everything balances. And so, while I say I appreciate your feedback, I don't think you see it in the context that I do. And I think you have to have the confidence to follow through on that, even though it may seem you're being belligerent and difficult at times. I think that's just part of the job. Success has many mothers as well. It's the critics disappear once it's all going well.
But I have to say, you've done great work. It's a great movie, and I hope a lot of people in Germany and many, many more in the world will see this in the cinema when it's streaming, when it's available everywhere.
Well, thank you very much for your 5-star review as well. I'm very touched. It's very, very nice here. It's great to be in Germany, and appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Cheers, mate.